Good.
Perfect. All right. Well, welcome again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Angela Howes, and I am the teen librarian at the East Bridgewater Library. I'm so glad we could have you all here with us this evening. And it is my honor to introduce our presenter, Julie. Julie is the Senior Director of College Planning, Education, and Training at MEFA. She joined MEFA in 2007, and in her role provides expertise related to planning, saving, and paying for college to families, colleges, and other organizations. Prior to joining MEFA, Julie worked for the College Board, Nellie Mae, and American Express, and was the Director of Financial Aid at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Julie has been involved with MEFA in a variety of positions and committees since 1993. She holds degrees from the University of Massachusetts in Amherst and the Harvard Graduate School of Education in Cambridge. So Julie, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Thank you so much. And we'll get started and welcome everyone. So this evening, we're going to talk about early college planning. And I think I'll just ask, we'll go through some logistics and then I will ask you while we're doing that to maybe put into the chat just the ages of your children, the students you might be thinking about, all of that. And we'll go through the logistics of how the webinar will work. You have control of your audio settings. And I guess the chat feature is disabled. So maybe you can put that in the Q&A if you'd like. But also, ask your questions as you go along, as you're thinking of things, put them in the Q&A, and I will be sure to answer those questions. And if you need closed captioning, which I think some people have already taken advantage of, just hit the live transcript button and you'll be able to see the words that we're speaking. And if you need to leave the webinar, you can do so at any time, and we will send you a link to both the recording and the slides, so you'll have them. And a little bit about MEFA. So MEFA is a state authority created in 1982 to help families plan, save, and pay for college. And we have the state's college savings plans, the U Fund and the U Plan, and we're going to talk about those tonight. We also have low-cost financing loans if families need those to pay for college. And everything else we do is provide free guidance to families, to students at whatever age or stage you're in this whole process. And so there's so many ways. Please come back to MEFA often, and you'll see we have a podcast, we have a blog, we have a great website, and we have lots of events, webinars like this and in the community over all the years that your children, your students are growing up and getting ready to go to college. So tonight's topics, we're going to talk about the plan for college, academic planning and financial planning. And then we will talk more specifically about some specific savings programs and all the things you can be doing now. So I'm going to take a quick look and see, to those of you who've talked about your children, we have 15, 14, 9, twins, congratulations, 7 and 11, sophomore, ninth grader, 16, 13, 15, 16, wonderful. Okay. This is terrific. All right, well, let's just talk a little bit about academic planning. You, of course, probably stay on top of this for your students in their schools. When you want to think about graduating from high school to be able to attend college, one thing you can do is just look at the Department of Education for Massachusetts at this website, doe.mass.edu, to review the guidelines for graduation. Many high schools, the classes that your students take will far surpass those guidelines, but it's always good to just know what that baseline is. And another thing you can review is the admission standards for Massachusetts state colleges and universities at mass.edu. And you'll see the GPA that's required And sometimes if a student has a GPA that doesn't quite meet those admission standards, they can take a standardized test to balance that out. So all of that information is at that website at mass.edu. It's also great to understand the curriculum at the high school. So what kind of course options do your students have? Do they have advanced placement, which is, those are classes that are actually college level work, and a student can take an exam at the end and receive a 1 to 5 grade and put that on the college application. And that demonstrates to colleges that students can do college level work. There's IB, which is International Baccalaureate, and that's another type of a program like that shows colleges that students can do advanced and high level work. There are also things like honors classes that show that students are challenging themselves in high school as well. However, let's say your high school doesn't have any of that. That's okay too. So whatever the high school offers, you just want to be aware and work with your student on choosing classes wisely. And dual enrollment is another one where students can go and take college classes at community colleges nearby and receive credit and have it as a class. So that's another option. So you can check out all of those things with your high school. And we have some tips on one of our blogs about mefa.org/high school academics. So you can find a little bit more there. And MEFA also has a free web portal tool for students in grades 6 through 12. And it's a little different. If a student is in middle school, they see certain pieces of the portal, and if they're in high school, they see others. But you can just go in and say, I am a student, and register, and then start to use this very age-specific, student-centered, interactive tool to do all kinds of things, like take some skills and interest assessments so you can kind of think about, oh, what do I like? And they're done in a really fun way for students. One of them is a game, the Would You Rather game. And so done in a very fun way. And students can then learn about things they like, skills they have, skills they'd like to explore, and then connect that to careers and to jobs and to post-secondary programs that will lead them to that path. There's also financial aid and scholarship information in here, and a digital portfolio that the student can just keep. So as the student goes in and works through this portal and does different activities, they can create a resume, they can start to search for colleges in here, and always go back. And the digital portfolio will show them where they left off and what's the next activity they can complete. So this is a terrific free tool for students. So another topic we just like to put right out in the open is, is it worth it? Is college worth it? And we hear a lot about that lately, and after the pandemic, that question I see come up now and again. So here's what I'd say. First of all, college can be many things. So college can be a 4-year leafy green campus that looks like the pictures of college as we've always seen them in the movies or that type of thing. But college can also be the school down the street that you commute to that has great programs and is affordable. It can also be 2-year programs, 4-year programs, certificate programs. It really, college and post-secondary education can be very wide. So what I would say about it being worth it is, well, yeah, a student graduating from high school probably wants to continue to build skills and get training. And so therefore have a plan for after high school. And the same then goes for college. If college is a big expense, so it's good to have a good idea of why you're going to college and why you're going to the college that you're going to, the college you're going to choose, and that you're paying for, and connect that to who you are as a person, your skills, your career goals, aspirations, all of that. So I guess it's just being a little bit mindful and putting in the work to think that through between parent and student to make a good decision. And then mostly it does pay. So you can just see from this that median earnings and tax payments of workers, of those who have done professional degrees, doctoral degrees, master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, associate's degrees, and all the way down to some college, high school, and no college. And you can see there is a big disparity. So mostly it does pay to go to college, but I will say that it's not 100%. It is possible that sometimes someone could go to an expensive college, take out a lot of loan debt, and have a career or a job that maybe takes a long time to earn back those earnings. So those are just things to consider and think about early on, and do this as a fun conversational exercise, students, parents, all together. And this is just a chart showing how much does college cost. And so that's another thing that I'd like to point out, that it's not one cost. There are many types of colleges. And here you can see the most expensive type tends to be that private, not-for-profit. And then the next would be the public 4-year and out of state. And then the public 4-year in-state. And then community colleges tend to be a very affordable way to get a college education, begin a college education, all of that with transferable credits. And we're going to show you some options. But the other thing to know is when you see these very high college costs published, they include everything it would cost for a student to attend for a year, such as tuition and fees, living expenses, food, books, supplies, equipment, all of that. So that's when you see a cost of college that seems really high, just know that that includes everything. And so more important, though, than how much does a college cost, how much is just that full cost of attendance, is what is the real cost to you as a family? How much is the college going to cost you? That's more important. And so here are some ways that you can begin to learn about that. There's something called an expected family contribution calculator. Now, I'll put out there that this EFC is changing in the federal regulations for federal financial aid. It's going to be called the Student Aid Index beginning next year. So, but anyway, it will be the Student Aid Index calculator. And you can go onto the MEFA website and put in information about your finances and get a sense of what your expected family contribution will be. Is it $5,000? Is it $20,000? Is it $60,000? And that can help you for planning purposes. And what that means is that that's probably an amount that you might be expected to pay toward college before financial aid will come in to help. So if that's a low number, that means that potentially there will be a lot of help from financial aid. And if it's a high number, it means probably that you'll be paying more of those college costs out of your own pocket. Additionally, colleges all have something called net price calculators on their websites, and they give you a similar number, but they also take it one step further and can give you an estimate of the type of financial aid that your student might be able to receive at their college. It's an estimate because, of course, you're doing this years before college starts, but it's just good to have a general sense for planning purposes. And here are some other great websites that you can navigate. You can search through about colleges and learn lots of detailed information about colleges. So here's an example of one. So with this one, let's see, we're looking at Boston College here, I believe. Yep, we're looking at Boston College, and if you go to College Scorecard, College Navigator, you can find, gives information on the address, where it is, graduation rate, average annual cost, median earnings of someone who graduates from that school. And there's lots more data too about how many people in different majors. What's the average scholarship or grant for a family with your income, things like that. So there are lots of websites that you can use to learn more details about colleges. And let's just see. I'm sorry, I have all these boxes in my way. So this is an example of a net price calculator from Boston College. So it's going to say, all right, you completed this calculator. Here are the direct costs. And here's the estimated financial aid, grants, and scholarships that you would be awarded, estimated. And here would be your direct costs after the grants and scholarships. And then your student might be eligible for these loans, these federal loans. And so here's the estimated remaining cost after financial aid. Oh, I guess this is UMass Boston, sorry. So that just shows you some of these tools that you can use to just get a sense of what these numbers really will mean for your family. And let me talk about a couple of other great options that you can explore. I mentioned that community colleges can make things very affordable. So we have a program called Mass Transfer here in Massachusetts. And that means that if a student starts at a community college and then transfers to a four-year institution, there's so many ways to save a lot of money. So there are things such as guaranteed credit transfer. So the student will know these credits I'm putting in are going to transfer to a four-year school. And then there are ways that you can have a tuition credit and freezes on tuition. So I would highly encourage you to explore this mass.edu mass transfer website and play around with it to see all of the ways that you could make an education even more affordable by starting at a community college. Sometimes it's good to explore this, and sometimes a student might, when beginning to apply to colleges, have a community college on the list and a lot of four-year institutions on the list, but just to keep all the options open to make sure that you can also make an affordable choice. And another great website is the Tuition Break website. And I'll stop there because I see Angie and you must have a question.
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions in the Q&A.
Great.
We had one person asking about a few slides back when it said 58,000. They thought that looked a little low and that the cost was now closer to 75,000. Do you think that that 75,000 figure is more accurate today?
I think you're right. Was that for Boston College?
I think that was back for the average cost for college.
Oh,
maybe one more slide back. Yeah, that one there.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. This is from the College Board. And so these are national statistics, and New England has the highest cost colleges in the country. So you're right, that is low for New England. And in New England, I think nationwide, these figures are still fairly accurate, but in New England, yes, we have so many colleges that cost in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, and that keeps going up. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yes, the price we pay to live up here in beautiful New England. And then just to confirm, these are amounts per year?
Yes, absolutely. They are per year. Yes.
And then the last question is just to confirm, we're going to be sharing the slides after the event, or are we going to share the entire recording? We
will share both the recording and the slides.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. That's all the questions for now.
Oh, that's
keep
great.
Coming in the Q&A if you have more.
Yes, those were great ones. Thank you so much. All right. So we talked about mass transfer. So now let's talk about Tuition Break. And that is a program that's here in New England. It's through the New England Board of Higher Education. And that's a program that allows students to attend a public university in a neighboring state. So in Massachusetts, a student could attend any of the any of the public institutions in New England. And certain programs allow the student to go out of state, but pay in-state tuition. So someone could attend a program at the University of Maine, but pay Massachusetts public institution costs. So there are lots and lots of programs that fall into this category. So go to the NEBI website. And also we had the director of Tuition Break do a webinar for MEFA. So listen in on that one as well to learn all kinds of details about that great program. All right, and then I keep talking about financial aid. So how's this financial aid going to help you? And what is financial aid? So financial aid is any money that is going to help the student pay for college. And we usually say there are three types: grants and scholarships, which are the best. That is just money that is awarded to the student and the student does not have to repay. Now, sometimes people think of grants as being based on financial need and scholarships being based on merit. And that is true sometimes, but I'm just going to say that these terms are interchangeable. And so you don't have to worry so much about that. The best thing to know is that they are free money to the student. So that's something that you are going to apply for, and we'll help give you that information. But other types of financial aid are work study, which is a program where students can get a job on campus, sometimes off, and work during the school year while they're a student and get paid. And the reason work study itself is a special program is that it's a federal program that allows the college to employ many more students than they would be able to afford otherwise. And also that the earnings that students earn in these work study jobs are not counted toward their financial aid in following years. So that's another reason this type of aid is helpful for students. Plus, work study is just great. Sometimes students can choose a job where they do not much, like sit maybe at the library desk and check students into the library, just making sure they count how many people are in the library and they can do their homework. That's one example. Or they could work a job maybe in the admissions office that's very busy. Maybe they're giving campus tours and meeting students and all of that. It's busy, but it's also allowing them to gain a lot of skills that they might be able to use in another job in the future. So work study is a great program. And then student loans. Student loans are federal student loans that are just in the student's name. They're called the federal direct student loans, do have special benefits that are unlike any other loan that we as parents would borrow. And so for that reason, those student loans are considered financial aid. A couple of things are that the interest rates are capped and fixed. Students have many repayment options. They don't have to pay them off while they're in college. So there are lots of reasons. They are loans, and the students do need to pay them back. So for that reason, they're not as good as the other types of aid, but they sometimes allow a student to attend a higher cost institution than they might be able to otherwise. And so when, as a family, you apply for financial aid, you'll learn that financial aid is awarded based on two things, and sometimes it's a little bit of a mix, but the first is based on merit. So let me talk about that for a minute. Colleges, of course, every year want to bring in a class of students who are all going to be able to do the work, succeed, and go out and do great things afterwards. So they're very invested in bringing in a class that is going to be a great fit for the institution. And so they're looking for a lot of things to fill out a well-rounded class. The number one thing that they're looking for, though, is academically capable students. And so students who fall high in the admission pool at a certain college in a certain year will be sought after and can sometimes receive merit-based aid, which would be grants and scholarships given to them that they don't have to pay back. Also, for athletics, sometimes merit-based aid is awarded, or for a theater or drama or an artistic skill. So basically, the college uses merit-based aid to really pull in a class that they would like to admit. So keep that in mind, but also keep that in mind that you don't have to be the valedictorian of your high school to receive merit-based aid. You just have to be academically on the higher end of the admissions pool. And that could be the whole top half or something of an admissions pool at a college. So I guess what I'd say to you younger students, that working hard in high school and doing well in your classes, getting good grades, having a good GPA, all of that will help you when it comes to merit-based aid. And then other aid is awarded based on financial need, and that's the financial need of the family. And so as a family, you'll apply for financial aid using the required forms when your student is a senior in high school. And depending what your financial situation is on those forms, then you can be awarded financial aid based on your financial need as determined by the college. So we mentioned that expected family contribution, when there's the cost of the college minus what you are expected to pay, the balance then is your financial need. And that's what colleges can use to award need-based aid. So that's how that works. And I will also add that over time, MEFA has lots of workshops on applying for that financial aid and how all of that works. So how do families pay for college? We know it's expensive. Thank you for whoever pointed out that $75,000 isn't an unheard of number for many colleges in this area. How are families paying for college? So here are all the ways that they're paying. Financial aid. Hopefully most families receive some type of financial aid. And then other than that, they're paying for college with past income, present income, and future income. So what does that mean? That means past income, some savings, other assets that families have. That's one way families are paying. Present income, right out of your salary. Are you paying? Most colleges have a monthly payment plan. So while the norm is to pay once in the fall and once in the spring, you can set that up differently so that you pay monthly if you have room in your budget to make some of those payments. Or future income, which is student loans or maybe parent loans as well. And so most of the families that I have worked with, and I will say, you heard that I've been doing this since for many, many years. I think it's upwards of 30 years that I've been working in this higher education financing field. So I've worked with thousands and thousands of families, and most of the families that I have worked with do a mix of all of this, especially if you have multiple children. And so that's what we're going to get into a little bit more. But what I will say is we're going to start to talk about why savings is such a good idea. And that's because the more that you have saved, the less pressure that puts on your current income or the need to borrow when you get to that stage. So I think this illustrates that. Let's say you have a $10,000 college cost and you save money for it. Well, hopefully you save over time and you can earn interest. So this is a very simple example, of course, but it's showing that if you save, you could save $6,960, earn interest, and there's $10,000 of cost. If you don't save, to come up with the $10,000, you might have to borrow it and pay interest over time, and you end up paying a lot more. So I guess that's the point of this slide, that most families pay for college over time. It's just, when does that time start? Does it start early or does it go late? And let's talk about the two biggest myths, or the two biggest comments that people make. First is, well, if I save, won't that just hurt my financial aid? Should I not save because that means I won't get financial aid? And the truth is that's false. Don't think that. The truth is that income is the biggest factor in determining that need-based financial aid eligibility, not savings. So while your savings gets counted, it gets counted at a rate of about 5%. So if you have $100,000 in assets in savings, that's going to increase what you're expected to pay toward college each year by about $5,000. So it's factored in, but in a minimal way versus your income, which factors it in pretty heavily. So your savings will definitely help you much more than it could ever hurt you. I really think it won't hurt you. It really will help you be able to pay. And the other thing that families say to me a lot is, when I look at these numbers, I keep going back to your comment about $75,000 a year. I have 3 children. This is overwhelming. How could I ever do this? So I'm not even going to bother because I can't begin to save what I need. And so the truth is, it's still worth saving. Of course, you probably can't save everything. Most families don't, but it is helpful. Every little bit you save, even a little bit over time, is going to help you when it comes time to pay those college bills. I will also add that I have a 26-year-old, so he is out working on his own, and I'm not having to support him anymore. And then I have a senior in college, and I just wrote my last check. So I'm very much on a personal level. I've seen this all from that angle as well. And I will tell you that having some money saved was very helpful to me. So here are all the ways that your savings will help you. It will just give more education options when it comes time. The student has a list, 6 to 8 colleges they're going to apply to at different costs. You'll receive different financial aid from different colleges because that's just how things work. Having some savings will allow more options as far as choices. So that's a good reason to save. And it will also allow maybe the student to take advantage of different options while in college, such as maybe an unpaid internship one summer or a study abroad program, something like that. And it definitely can reduce the amount of loans that parents need to borrow, that possibly students need to borrow. Perhaps it can allow the student to work less and study more. But let me be clear. I think working a little bit in college, and it's been proven, can be very helpful to students to organize their time, to make a contact on campus with adults, with an office. So working a little bit can be great. But if a student ends up having to work too much, that could mean they have to take fewer classes, extend their college experience, all of that. And again, as we said, this saving for college will have a minimum impact on financial aid eligibility. Hi, Angie. Yeah.
Hey, we have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, can a child use the income from a divorced parent who makes less than the other parent who may make more to help them receive more financial aid?
Such a good question. Well, I will tell you that the laws around this, the regulations, I should call them, around this are changing right now for the 2024-2025 academic year. So if your student is going to start college at that time, there's going to be a change about who should file the financial aid forms at that time. So up until now, and up until this year, the parent in a divorced or separated situation that files the financial aid forms with the student is the parent that the student lived with more in the last calendar year. So many times that could be the parent that earns less. So that worked out that way. If you're applying for financial aid starting next fall for, again, that 24-25 year, the new regulations are going to be the parent that provides more financial support, or the parent the parent that earns more. So that is changing. So that, yeah, that may not be good news but let me say that although that's happening, there are some colleges that require another financial aid form. So the main financial aid form I should start with is called the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Everyone will complete that. The other form is called the CSS Profile form. And that form always collected information from both parents anyway. So some colleges will still have you both submitting, so it won't change so much in those cases. But lastly, what I'll say is that, yes, there are these forms, you'll complete them, but any unique circumstances that you have as a family, you can always write to the financial aid offices at the colleges that you're applying to, and share any different information, unique information, and they will take that into consideration. They have something they call professional judgment, and while they receive these forms electronically and look through, they also will take information that you submit. So you can work through some of that as well.
Great. That's actually really, really interesting information. Breaking news about that big
Yes,
change
it
coming
is.
up.
It is.
And then another question is, do 529s fall in the same category?
So 529 plans are considered in the financial aid process parent assets. And even though the student is the beneficiary, they're not a student asset. And that is positive. That's a good thing, because parent assets are the ones that are treated at that 5% mark, whereas student assets are treated at 20%. So if there's any money in a student bank account that's specifically the students, that's treated a little more heavily than parent assets. So yes, 529 plans, they count, but they count in that minimal way.
Nice. And then we just had one more question come in. What if the child chooses not to go to college? What can be done with the MEFA College Fund?
That's great. Yeah. So if you save in a U fund, the 529 plan from MEFA and Fidelity, then what happens is the child doesn't want to go to college. You can do a couple of things. You can, first of all, you could hold it in the account. There's not an expiration date, so they might choose to go in 2 years or something like that. Or you could transfer it to another beneficiary, any relative of the first beneficiary. So to a sibling or to yourself or even to a cousin. That's one thing you could do. And all those things would allow you to realize all the tax benefits of these programs. But let's say no siblings, parents don't want to go back to school. The student really has gone off, is doing well in other ways, and is not going to use this money for college. Then you can withdraw the money. But what you do is you will end up paying regular income taxes on any interest that's been earned, and also a 10% penalty on any interest that's been earned on the account. But other than that, you can take the money out and then it's yours, but you don't get those tax benefits if it's used for something other than college. But again, I'll go back to that wide definition of college. It's not just a 4-year institution. It sometimes could be a training program or other. So you'd want to look into that, because the 529 plans do extend to those things as well.
Awesome. And if you don't mind, one more question.
No, this is great.
Do we include retirement savings in our assets?
That's a great question. I love it. No, that's a beautiful thing. You do not include retirement savings on your financial aid forms. In fact, you definitely don't include them on the FAFSA. The CSS profile form that I mentioned does ask about has retirement questions on it, but those numbers are used for other reasons, to separate out assets, the ones that should be included, the ones that shouldn't, all of that. So that is not counted in the financial aid formulas.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll let you keep going.
Questions.
I'm sure there will be more questions soon.
So great. Thank you, everyone. This is great. And the last point on this slide about how savings can help you is that, and we'll also share that studies have been done that students who know that there's a college savings account in there with their name on it as a beneficiary. There's just been research done that they tend to go to college in higher numbers and graduate from college in higher numbers. And we think it's that aspirational effect where it's kind of motivating to know that that expectation is there from parents. So if you are saving for your child, let them know. All right, and here are just a couple of examples to kind of put some of these numbers into real world things. So this is just a student, Kyle, who wants to attend a 4-year public college to study business. And the full annual cost of this school is $22,500. Again, I know that can seem low for around here, but so this family has an AGI on the tax return. And I told you these formulas are income driven. And so their income is $49,000 and they have no college savings to speak of. And so this is Kyle's financial aid award from this institution, grants and scholarships of $13,000, a federal work study award of $2,000, which is a typical amount, and that federal student loan of $5,500, which is the typical amount for a freshman in college. So Kyle's total aid is $20,500. And that means there is an amount that's left over that the family does need to pay out of pocket. So Kyle's family needs to pay $2,000 out of pocket each year so that Kyle will be able to attend and cover all the full costs of $22,500. And then, of course, Kyle's family has to think about the fact that it's not just for 1 year, it's for 4 years. So making sure they can pay that. And then let's look at Lisa, wants to attend a 4-year private institution to study nursing. And the full annual cost is $60,000. And Lisa's family makes $47,199 and is not eligible for need-based grants, which this is just an example because I'm just throwing this out there. I think generally at that income, she would be eligible for need-based grants, but let's just say she isn't in this case. So she receives a merit-based scholarship and a nursing award and a federal loan for $27,500. But that means Lisa's family needs to pay $32,500 out of pocket each year for college. And so, yeah, maybe Lisa's family can do that, but maybe can't. So this might be a conversation about, let's look at some other paths. What are the awards that other colleges have offered to Lisa in a nursing program, if that's what she really wants? So just some examples of how these conversations happen at that time when you're trying to make that decision. All right, so what are the strategies that MEFA encourages for saving? Start as early as possible. Truly, if you don't have a savings account going on for your child, start today. And it doesn't, I think a lot of people put it off because they start thinking, well, how am I going to save? Am I going to save in a 529 plan or somewhere else? And how much should I be saving? But all those questions are important, but the most important is just to start saving somewhere and save what you can. And then you can figure it out and maybe increase that over time and all of that. And learn about having a goal in mind of how much, once you run some of those calculators and see what might be expected of you to pay for college, then you can start to have that goal for saving and start to save as much as you can, use automatic transfers, all of that. There are ways, and this little page that you see here is from the U Fund 529 page, that you can also, once you open a U Fund, anyone can contribute to it. So then even on birthdays or other holidays, you could sort of send the link and share with relatives who might want to contribute and say, instead of another game, maybe a small contribution to the college savings fund would be helpful, and have other people start to put some money in there as well. And even when your child gets old enough and has a job and is doing that, they could even contribute to the account as well. All right, so now let's talk about, before we do, then we'll get into these exact MEFA's college saving plans. Yeah.
All right, we have some really great questions. If my child is in 10th grade, can I add catch-up funds?
So yes, that's great. Yes, you can. The limit of what you can put in, is the amount of the gifting amount, which I believe is 15,000 this year. It doesn't say it there. So you can put in up to that each year as catch up.
Awesome. Another question, does parent home value or outstanding mortgage impact aid or grants?
Great question. You're right. All these. So the FAFSA, the main financial aid form, does not ask any questions about how much your home is worth, the one that you live in, your main home, how much it's worth, what's owed on it, nothing. So it asks nothing about your primary residence, which on some level is good because it means it's not counted as an asset. And in some cases, it might be an asset. So that's good. However, that other financial aid form, the CSS profile, that does ask questions about your home. And it asks, what is it worth? How much is owed on it? What did you buy it for? All of that. And the equity amount, so what it's worth minus what is owed on it, is your home, is the equity you have in your home. And that's the number that is considered an asset in the financial aid process. Now, it's still considered at that 5% rate. So if you have home equity of $100,000, that increases what you'll be expected to pay for college only by about $5,000. But if you have $400,000 in equity on a home, then quickly that starts to add up to be expecting you to pay over $20,000 more toward college.
Great, thank you. And then what is the cutoff for parents' income that would not allow the child to qualify for financial aid?
Yeah, a very common question. So there isn't really a cutoff because let's say you're applying, I keep calling it expected family contribution. Again, it will be your student aid index, but let's say it's $20,000. And let's say you are applying to a college that is relatively inexpensive and costs $25,000. And the student can take a student loan. Well, put it this way, let's say 25,000 minus your 20, you only have 5,000 in aid eligibility. And if the college fills that with a student loan, then you're not eligible for any more aid. But let's say the same family, your expected family contribution is 20,000 and you're applying for a college that costs 80,000. Well, 80 minus 20 is 60. You have a lot of eligibility for financial aid. So one big factor is the cost of the college that you're applying to. Another big factor is how large is your family? So do you have 3 children, or do you just have the one child? So that is a factor. So it's hard to give an exact number. However, what I'd say is if you use those calculators, that expected family contribution calculator on the MEFA website, you can sort of see if your expected family contribution comes out to be, I'm just going to make this up, but $80,000. And then you pretty much know that all of the colleges you're applying to don't cost too much more than $80,000. So you're probably not going to be eligible for too much need-based aid. But if it's anything less than that, it's probably worth applying. And there are good reasons to apply anyway, for your student to be able to take those loans if if you need that. Or just what if your situation changes halfway through the year? It's not a bad idea to have the financial aid forms on file. But again, depending on how large that expected family contribution is, you can kind of make that decision.
Great, thank you. And then we have a question that refers back to the example with Lisa's family. So in that example, could she have taken out more in student loans, or is that hypothetically the maximum amount that she's been awarded?
Oh, these questions just hitting on everything so good. So for federal student loans, $5,500 is the maximum that a freshman can take. And then sophomore, $6,500, and then $7,575 for junior and senior year. So those federal student loans are the best. They are the loans that a student should take first, but they are capped. And so that's an issue because, okay, then where do you turn? And so that's when the student, and I'm saying you, student and or parent would have to turn to additional loans on top of that. And there are loans that the federal government has that are parent loans plus loans that would be just in the parent's name. And then there are loans like the MEFA loan that would be the parent and student are on that loan note together. And then there are some loans where the student would be on the note, but the parent needs to be a co-borrower. Basically, any other loans are going to need a credit-worthy co-borrower on the loan. And there are lots of options available, and you'll want to choose the best one. But the federal loan that's just in the student's name is capped at that low amount.
Great. And then we have two more questions, and then I'm going to let you keep going, and any more questions we'll jump in a later time.
No, it's great.
So the next question is, can the contributions continue even if my child has already started college?
Yes, great question. Absolutely, yes. So you can continue contributing all the way through and just keep that fund up to be paying those bills all along. Yes. So that, I know another one of our sort of taglines at MEFA that we say is it's never too early to start and it's never too late. So that's great.
Great. Awesome. And then we have a situation. I started a MEFA fund for my kids 7 years ago when I lived in Massachusetts, and now we live in Maine. Can I still use the funds for any college nationwide?
Yes. Yes. So you can, and I say any college, it's any accredited college or university. Yes. And it doesn't matter about the state lines. You can use it anywhere that you, yes. Yes.
Great. All right. I'll let you continue.
Oh, great questions, Angela. Oh, all right. So let's talk about these two college savings programs specifically. So, all right, we'll start on the left in the green. This is the U Plan. This is MEFA's prepaid tuition program. And what this is a way that you can lock in just tuition and fees, just undergrad, at participating institutions in Massachusetts. And I'm going to quickly show you the list and then come back. It's a lot of institutions. It's about 70 institutions, public, private. You see Amherst College, Boston College, Emerson, North Shore Community College, UMass Amherst, Wheaton, huge list of colleges that participate in this. And so what you would do is you would put some money in at one point, and that money would lock in a percentage of the tuition when you put it in the year that you put it in. So I'm going to give a simple example. Let's say, and these numbers are not correct, but let's say UMass Amherst tuition and fees today was $10,000. And you had $5,000 to put in the U Plan. So you put $5,000 in the U Plan this year, 2023. You're locking in 50% of UMass tuition and fees. So when your child then decides to attend in 10 years, let's say, and the cost is $20,000, then you've locked in 50% of that. So your 5,000 has become 10,000. I think that's the simplest way to explain it. So it can be a really terrific way to sort of outpace inflation, so to speak. And families who have saved in the U plan, we have a number of examples of who have done really well with their kids going to Massachusetts colleges and universities. You don't pick a college up front. You just every year you receive the list of all of the colleges and what percentage you've locked in. So, you know, we don't have a crystal ball, of course, to know the future. So what if your student doesn't attend one of those colleges? And I'll tell you, my students, my children, one went in New Hampshire and my daughter is in Pennsylvania. So of course that was the case with me. But I was able to withdraw the money from the U plan. I didn't get the benefit of that percentage of tuition and all of that, but I withdrew the money that I had invested and I received the money back with, what's it called? With interest, just the basic interest, CPI, Consumer Price Index interest. So I still had that money and I still used it to pay those college bills, but I didn't get the benefit of that real lock in and outpacing the tuition increases. So anyway, if you have interest in that program, go to mefa.org/uplan. We have some webinars on it. We have some 90-second videos. You can always call us and talk about it. But it is, it's an interesting program and it has been helpful for some families. Now, with the U Fund, the orange, the U Fund is the Massachusetts, the MEFA 529 plan. And so MEFA is the program manager and Fidelity, MEFA, it's MEFA's fund and Fidelity is the program manager, and we work in tandem. So this works like all 529 plans where you go in, you open the account and you begin to save, and you can do that either through automatic savings or savings when you can, and you then save for as long as you can. And then when you go to take the money out, as long as you use it at any accredited college or university nationwide, and for any qualified expense, tuition, fees, room and board, books, supplies, all of that, then when you withdraw the money, you won't pay any taxes on any earnings on the account. So it becomes income tax free when you take it out and use it for qualified educational expenses. There's no annual account maintenance fee. When you go in, it's fairly easy to open one of these accounts. The biggest decision you have to make when you open it is, how do I want to invest my money? And there are lots of choices, and you can have a Fidelity representative talk with you and help you figure that out. One very common way that families invest is through what's called an age-based fund. And so Fidelity offers those, and that means that you're invested in portfolios that that start out a little more risky when your children are younger and you have long time horizon to save. But as your child gets older and as they get closer to college age, it gets more and more conservative automatically, so that hopefully your account isn't having these big swings right at the time where you need it for college. So many people use those, but your Fidelity representatives can help you with that. So you'd go to fidelity.com/ufund, start your application, and you can ask any questions as you go along there. So I knew we'd have questions about these accounts. Yeah. Great.
Question about the 529 account. Can
Yeah.
funds saved in a 529 account be used to pay for federal and private loans after a student has graduated?
Great question. Yes, that is an expanded use, with a maximum though of $10,000 per student. So yes, the expanded uses are apprenticeship programs and student loan payments.
Great. And then can a U plan set up for one kid be used for a second kid?
Great question. So yes, however, the lock-in year is locking in for the year that the first child was planning to attend. Okay, so let's say that 50% lock-in that I mentioned, the first student is attending, and that $5,000 would have been worth $10,000 at UMass Amherst because that was the lock-in. Well, let's say you change the beneficiary, which you can definitely do, but the other student doesn't attend until 2 years later. Well, your money has still had that lock-in, so it still has a big benefit, but the lock-in stopped 2 years prior. So that's just one thing. But if your students are close in age, that still works pretty well.
Got it. Great. And then can money in a U fund account be moved to a U plan account?
So no, I mean, it can, but not in the way you're thinking. It can't just be transferred over. Like a U fund account can be moved to any other U fund with no tax penalties, no problem. But if you take money to put money in the U plan, because they're separate type of programs, you would withdraw the money from the U fund, and then you'd pay any taxes and all and have to put it in the U plan that way. So yeah.
Got it. I think that's all for now.
All right. And I will share, I hate to even get into this because MEFA hasn't even come out with all our information about it, but the qualified education expenses, the uses of the U Fund 529 plans continue to expand. And if any of you have read recently, it's not going to happen until next calendar year, but there are going to be ways in the future that money not spent in these accounts could be rolled into a Roth IRA. There are lots of caveats with how that can be done, but so my general statement right now is just to say that the use of these 529 plans continues to increase. All right, and here are all the U plan colleges. All right, and then something else, a benefit for both of these programs. You heard, contributions to the U plan and U fund are state tax deductible on top of the federal tax piece benefits. They are also state tax deductible. So when you do your state taxes, you can take a state tax deduction of up to $2,000 for married filers and $1,000 in payments for individual filers if you put money in either of these accounts. And the limits are per filer. And MEFA has this neat college planning tool. So if you go to our website, you can find this college planning tool, and you can kind of go in and for each child plan how you're saving. You can explore some colleges and see what you might be able to get for aid there, and then what your savings is, what the shortfall might be, and then watch that change over the years as you save. It's a pretty neat tool. So I would encourage you to go in and check that out as well. Another thing to play around with. So I guess here are all the things you can do. Hopefully you'll sign up for MEFA emails. Come back, go to the MEFA website, see what other events we have. I'm sure we're going to be doing more with Angela and libraries, and you can register for events, view videos, and all of that. And just to say, and you can always call or email MEFA as well. Does my last slide say that? Well, here are all the ways you can find us on social media. So we're active on all of these platforms, and you can always call us or email us with any big questions, little questions. Very happy to talk with you. And we really just want to put out the best guidance that's free to help families with this whole college process. So we love doing it. And there's a whole group of us on the college planning team that really love to work with families. So thank you. And I'll open it up for more questions, more conversation, whatever.
No, thank you so much, Julie. That was so much helpful information. We do have at least one question, and I'm sure more will start coming in. So if you have your questions, now is a great time to put them in the Q&A. The first question is, are the tax benefits used before the money is used for college?
Let me just think what that means. So I think, so let me say it again and let's see if this makes sense. So first of all, it's after tax money that you're putting into these accounts. So so it's not pre-tax, like sometimes you can put into your retirement. So that's one thing. So after tax money goes into the accounts, and then all the years that you're saving, your money is growing and you're not paying taxes on any of that growth for the whole time. And then when you take the money out and use it for a qualified expense, you never pay any taxes on those earnings. So I guess it's happening. Yes, it's happening all before and at the time you withdraw. So I think that does answer your question. I had to talk it through myself. And
that's great.
Ask again if there's more that I didn't answer there.
That's great. Any other questions? Please feel free to put them in the Q&A. Oh, I think we saw another one. We've had some thank yous. People found this very helpful. Looks like another question is, does the income only in the previous year affect the financial aid?
Oh, yes. Another good question. Yeah. So that's the main year. So let's say we'll just take this year. Let's take the fall of this year, October 2023, which is when a senior in high school hopefully would start to do their financial aid forms. So there'd be a senior in high school filing the FAFSA in the fall 2023 because they hope to attend fall of 24. And so the information that will go on those financial aid forms is the tax year 2022. So yeah, it's it is the year before. As long as you're filing in the fall, it's that completed tax return from the year before. And that's the main year of income. Now, again, that CSS profile that you hear me say, it asks a lot of questions. They sometimes ask, well, what do you expect to, what do you think you'll earn in 2023? And what do you expect to earn in 2024? Because sometimes they want to get a sense if you're a family who has a fluctuating income versus a stable income. But still, even when they're asking all of those questions, they're still basing it on that 2022 tax year. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. And then are there any considerations if one or both parents are retired or still working but of retirement age?
So yes, I mean that the parent's age is that's one of the questions on the financial aid form, and there is some consideration there. So absolutely. Although I guess I'll just say this, being honest, probably not as much as you'd want it to. That's how I'll say that. So what I would also say is, depending on your retirement situation, you should feel free to do, as I mentioned earlier, possibly write an email to the school if there's a little more information that you want to share. Don't be shy about that, because any of that can help a financial aid administrator make a good decision there.
Great. Another question is, what will happen when we target one college and lock the tuition fee for you plan and we don't get admission to that college?
Oh, yes. Great that you brought that up, because again, no, you're not targeting one college. So that's great. And I know this is a big, that U-Plan program is sometimes hard to understand. When you put your money in the U-Plan, you're sort of targeting one of the 70 institutions. So in a way, there is the target, because that's where you'd get the most bang for your buck, so to speak. But in your mind, maybe you're hoping on one college, and if the student isn't admitted, your money is still going to be that lock-in at the other 60 some odd colleges. So every year that you're saving in the U plan, you'll receive a report that shows how much your money is worth at all of the different colleges. So, so when you're, again, when you're thinking about saving in the U plan, you're really targeting a group of colleges. And also then, if the student doesn't, there's only one on that list that the student's really hoping for and say, doesn't get admitted, then it is possible, as I mentioned, to take your money out and then use it for whatever college they go to with that CPI interest.
Great. We got a lot of thank yous and very informative information. People are feeling better about saving for college and paying for college. So double thumbs up to you. Our next question is, my 529 plan of 1 year has been losing value. If this continues, should I pause contributions?
Well, I'm going to say, I'm going to put you in touch with your Fidelity folks. There's a I call it a hotline. There's a U Fund line. And I would say, have that conversation with a financial advisor, because that's not I really don't want to overstep. However, from working in this field for so long and having all the Fidelity people are my colleagues, I talk with them all the time and I hear what they say. The advice usually is to to keep saving through the ups and downs. Sort of dollar cost averaging is the kind of the term they use to keep saving. That is, however, that's the general advice, to sort of do that over time, but your situation is your situation. It could be unique. And so I think the best would be to talk with an advisor, share your concerns and risk tolerance and all of that, and work with someone who would give you your specific advice as a family.
Great. That's great. The next question is, if college is 2 or 3 years away, is there any benefit to U plan versus 529?
Yes. In fact, if college is just 3 years away or so, the U Fund is your way to go, because you need the money actually has to sort of be in the you plan for 5 years to make sure you're covering the 4 years of college, and it doesn't have the time to get that real benefit. Someone who comes in and puts their money in the U plan when a child is 5 or something, that lock-in is going to have a much bigger benefit. So I would say go with the U Fund, and the flexibility that comes with 529 plans at this stage would outweigh that of the U plan.
Awesome. Are there any other questions? Feel free to put your questions in the Q&A if you have any. I'll wait and see if any more come through. If you found this informative and helpful, you can always put that in there too. I'm sure Julie will love to read all of the comments there.
No, and we're so happy. And that's what we really want you to know, is that that there's help too. You have these questions, ask them. And even after tonight, continue to ask them, because there is help doing all of this.
It's such a great resource. I just remember being so overwhelmed when my family was trying to figure out financial aid all those years ago. So it's great to have so many people that you can talk to for help. Well, it looks like that might be all the questions we have. Lots of people just saying thank you, and they found it very helpful. So kudos to you, Julie.
Well, thank you all. And there were such great questions. And Angie, thank you for setting this up, and all your other library counterparts. And we'll have to do it again.
Absolutely. Yeah, we would love to. Thank you all so much again for joining us. And we hope we've answered all of your questions, and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.